What's up, everybody? Back here, RobLive in studio again. I want to welcome you guys to May 1st, which is actually Mental Health Awareness Month. Did you know that, Jim? No?
Now I do.
Yeah, Mental Health Awareness Month, and it's perfect timing. I guess the color, you know how like breast cancer is pink. Mental health awareness is lime green. So if I'm educating you on that today, I mean, we're all learning, but I have the perfect guest for this today. In studio with us, live and direct, we have Scott Steinfeld, and there we go, and FIDEL BOBADILLA, which I practiced 7 times. Did I get it right?
Yep.
Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you guys.
So just a little reference point here. Yeah, you want that? Get that mic, Scott.
Yes, sir.
Scott has a lot to say. So my daughter plays Kings County volleyball. Shout out to KCV. And one of her teammates, one of our stars actually, and I'm not saying that because Dad's here. He knows. She's one of our stars, Naomi. I was always, and this is funny, I was like, well, Maddie, who's Naomi's parents? Like, we didn't know who her parents were, right? And then finally we go to this tournament, San Mateo.
It's that big white guy.
Yeah, and they're like, it's the white guy. I was like, oh, that okay. And then we started talking, right? And we find out that, you know, Scott was in the military. And Jim, you know, I'm always fishing for stories, right? My motto is everyone has a story, right? And so I'm always fishing to find people who are willing to share their story. And then Scott and I had a great conversation about this. And in that conversation, Scott said, hey, listen, you think I got a good story? I'm going to bring in a guy with me, if I can get him to come, who has an amazing story. And I was like, where do we sign? And lo and behold, here we are, May 1st, and we got FIDEL and Scott. So, yes, it's our first 2 guests, right? More than one. And so we want to start, and I'm taking Jim's advice today, right? We're not going to go with the origin story. We're just going to say Hanford natives, military veterans. And so let's start with boot camp. How about there? We start, like,
It's a long time ago for me. Not so long ago for FIDEL. It's a long time ago for me.
So what branch, just to clarify?
I'm retired Navy.
Retired Navy?
Army.
Army. Well, let's
Retired
start by
Army.
thanking you guys for your service. Yes.
Thank
I've always had a special place in my heart for the military. Both my fathers, who helped raise me, are both military. Army and Coast Guard.
Nice. Thank you for your
One
service.
served. Yeah, one served in Vietnam, the other Iraq, and the Gulf War. And so,
Actually, my best friend that just moved in with my son
yeah,
in Vegas, he was 4 years in the Coast Guard. He's been CHP for 20 some odd years now, but yeah, he did 4 years in the Coast Guard. He's all my kid's godfather, but yeah, best
Man.
friend for 47 years. So
Wow. Well, so obviously we're all partial to, you know, military people, and it's a different breed, as you guys know. It's a different breed, right? And I learned that just being raised in a household where people had served, but also moving to Lemoore. Right now, I live in Lemoore, and as you guys know, Lemoore is near a huge naval base, and I didn't know a whole lot about it. But when I moved to Lemoore, I started doing youth sports, and lo and behold, a lot of the Navy based parents, you know, they send their kids to play Little League and soccer and NJB like you guys, right? We have one in Lemoore as well. And through that process, I would meet a lot of wonderful military families. And I just realized that, you know, I apologize to anyone out there who may see this, but military parents make the best assistant coaches I will ever have. So I'm always recruiting, right? And I've had some civilian parents who've done a great job, but there's just something where I start, you know, I just love the military vibe. And so I slowly learned about the population and just different mindset, you know, having served, and not only served, but you guys both were active duty in the middle of combat, you know, which is a whole nother ball game, which I learned from my father who served in Vietnam, and the other father who served the Gulf War. It's not something that you necessarily are always readily available to talk about. You've got to process what you've seen, what you've been through, and, you know, on top of that, if you've lost anyone, right? And so I just want to say I'm very grateful for you guys to be here and to be willing to share some of the things that happened along the way. So I want to start with Scott quickly with boot camp and how you decided to enroll in service.
Well, there's only been one other person in our family, extended family, both sides, that served, and he was in Panama in World War II, and he was in the Navy. He was actually a Gold Gloves boxer in the Navy. He got out and to pursue a professional career in boxing, but
Nice.
anyway, he died when he was 42 of lung cancer because he smoked like a chimney back in the day. You know, he was a heavyweight champion, or he didn't win the belt, but he was going to fight Joe Louis, but he lost to Max Schmeling. But we'll go over my grandpa another day. But we got a big scrapbook of him, and he was pretty amazing. We actually just found a picture of him in my uncle Bob was in Ireland or somewhere, I can't remember where, but he was doing the ancestry thing.
Yeah.
And we just found a picture of my grandpa, the first one ever, of him in a military uniform. He was going to the base at Cristobal, where my mom was born.
Yeah.
And my grandma went out there. They were in a restaurant or something before he went to Panama. I just saw the first picture. I'm gonna have to show you. But it was pretty exciting because he was in his dress blues. He was a E1, so he had his Cracker Jacks on, and it's an amazing it's an amazing picture.
When you say that, I know exactly what uniform you're referring to. The Cracker Jack.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to show Fidel. I haven't shown him, but it's just just out of respect for him and my mom and stuff. And I ended up going to boot camp in Chicago at Great Lakes in 1990. And
Did you enlist with some friends, or was it just?
Yeah, actually, my best friend. He went Coast Guard though, but I stayed Navy. He went Coast Guard. But we did at the Piccadilly Inn in Fresno. We went to the MEPS.
Wow.
Now it's in San Jose. There's no MEPS in Fresno anymore. But so anyway, went to there, and then ironically, I went to OSA school in Virginia for 5 months or so, 5 or 6 months or whatever. But anyway, the first deployment I did was drug ops. Guess where? In Panama. I was stationed in Rodman, Panama for 4.5 months. I was on a fast frigate, an old flat bottom frigate. We were doing drug ops. Noriega was coming out of power, and we were doing drug ops down there in 91. So I was there for 4.5 months, and I visited the site where my grandpa was at and stuff. He was in Cristobal, where my mom was born and whatnot, but I was in Rodman, Panama, but we also were in Guatemala and Acapulco. We kind of hit the whole coastline. But anyway, he's the inspiration for me to go in the Navy, and so we're still the only two that have ever done the military thing. So I never met him. He died when my mom was 8.
Oh, okay.
So, and my mom has passed on the first year of COVID. So she, but she was extremely, at 8, she was super, super tight with him, and she had 4 siblings, and he was like supposedly a outstanding father. So, which I think is the most important thing in life, by the way.
Yeah. So like for our boxing historians who are going to try to look this up.
Oh yeah.
What was his name?
Alex Kettles, the original Great White Bomber.
Look that up. Alex Kettles, the original.
Look it up, Jim.
Great White Bomber.
Alex Kettles.
Google
from
Alex
Indiana.
Kettles. Kettles,
Yep.
All right.
So look him up, and he was 19-0 before Max Schmeling beat him up pretty good. But I guess he just he was really fantastic in the military, in the Navy. He was 6'6", 250. Jim might have to quote me on that, maybe 6'5". But 250, he was a heavyweight, so he was spectacular.
Wow.
So we got a big black scrapbook of him, but it's all boxing pictures and him, his shirt off at the beach and stuff. But we finally found the first picture of him in the Cracker Jack. So and people say if you put that Cracker Jack picture of him next to my Cracker Jack picture in boot camp, we look a lot alike. So I'm gonna have to definitely show you guys that. You guys are gonna be blown away.
So you go. So you enlist with your best friend. You guys go to boot camp together?
No. He went to Camp Dix in New Jersey.
And where'd you go?
And I went to Great Lakes in Chicago, Illinois.
Okay.
So and then boot camp was 9.5 weeks. My parents came out for graduation, which was spectacular. We went to Old Comiskey Park.
Yeah.
Went to a Chicago White Sox game. That was fantastic. It's always really nice when you're and I almost want to be that person that is talking to people that are going, young people that are going into the military.
Yeah.
Because I remember I went in peacetime. When I signed up, there was nothing going on. But when 2 weeks into boot camp, I saw green tracers going over Iraq, and Desert Storm was starting. And I called, you know, you got your calls on Sundays or whatever. You could call from a payphone. I called, Mom, I want to come home. I don't know what I did. I don't know about this. You know, kind of freaking out about what's going on. Okay, we're going to war with Iraq. Wow. You know, so I was in boot camp when Desert Storm started. So, but when you're young, that's kind of your mentality is, holy crap, I got to do this. I got to do what?
What would be your advice to new recruits?
You know what? You got to take the good with the bad, and you got to understand it's not all going to be easy, but it's all going to be worth it. It's all, and you're always going to be trained, and you're going to be with people that are trained, so you don't ever have to really worry.
Yeah.
You know, because you'll be good to go. You just got to be. It just takes time because I remember on that trip to Panama, I was that junior guy. I was that E1. I was that guy that was taking all the orders and doing all the crap. And
E1 means
the enlisted.
So you're the newest.
You're the bottom of the barrel. You're the scum of the earth. You're as low as it gets. So you know, and then a year later you'll make E2, and then a year later you make E3, and then so on and so on.
Okay.
So anyway, but by the time I was in Afghanistan for a year in 2009, then I was telling people what to do. I was the guy, and you always want to remember back and say, and I can always remember Peacock and Wiggins, Peacock, OS2 Peacock. He was the best guy ever. He treated you with respect. You got to get stuff done for Peacock, but he treated you with respect. Wiggins, total. I'm not going to say ASS, total butthole.
Yeah.
Everything he could do to piss you off and make your life more miserable, he would. And I'm sure, and I haven't talked to Fidel about it, but I'm sure he can remember the guys, the higher ups that you remember that, man, I want to be like that guy. I wanted to be Frank Peacock.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be Steve Wiggins. I didn't want to be that guy. So I learned as I stayed in for year after year after year. I remember when I started making rank and I want to be that guy. So I always treated, and I wasn't always the nicest guy, and you can ask a lot of people. They mistake me for being nice. I'm not that nice. But I'll tell you what, I'll treat you with a ton of respect. Yeah. And everybody that knows me, that's come across me, knows that I afford you every ounce of respect that you deserve. But when you
cross the
get
line,
off that, you know, then I can.
We get the other Scott.
You get the other Scott. He's not real nice. So,
is there a nickname for your alter ego?
You know,
there's Frank the Tank.
I've had plenty of people see, because in Afghanistan, and I'll talk briefly because we really need to get to Fidel, but in Afghanistan, part of my job, and I was running a security team, and I showed you a picture of them.
Yeah.
And I showed you some guys, and when we go pick a guy up, so we're all over the place, and I was in Kandahar at this point, so we were down in the southern province of Kandahar, and we'd have to go off and we were working with Task Force 72. They were out of Colorado Springs. They were Army Rangers. So we'd go pick up a guy, you know, God knows what he did, but he's, you know, we're taking him back to a small detention field site in Kandahar. So guess who gets to, and it's not the Miranda rights, but you're reading him the rules, basically. And my rules were, you don't touch or spit on my guys. You don't do this. You don't do that. You're in a United States field detention site. You're in United States custody. You won't do all these things. And at the end, and I've got an interpreter relaying all this to him. So I'm looking at the interpreter, telling him exactly what I'm going to tell him. He repeats after me. And then my final thing is, if you try to escape, you will be shot and killed. Do you understand? Interpreter gives it to him. And if they give me that half-assed look like, do you understand?
Wow.
And then
shakes him up.
He pisses down his pants, and then I'm like, okay.
He can read the tone.
So that's how it goes in the military. Yeah. You get people's attention when it needs to be needed.
Yeah.
So
you don't start yelling, but
right. So
if you feel like.
Yeah, I didn't have time to, you know, and the guys would laugh at me because, you know, my younger troops, they would kind of get a good chuckle out of it because they would see me in the next room, and we know the guy's going to get me. I take off my blouse, and so I'm just wearing my undershirt, and I go do about 15 pull-ups, and I'll tell you what, your boy was in shape.
I saw the pictures.
So,
Yeah.
so I would do 15 or
Saw the
20 pull-ups real quick just to get those veins popping out. So I'm
Yeah.
looking at them, and my spit's literally going on to, because I'm like this, like when I give them the instructions,
Yeah.
because too many times you're dealing with some real squirrely Taliban dudes, and these guys get real, you know, my guys and me getting spit in your face, that's, you know, back to the respect thing. It's and I've had it done to me, and it's probably the worst thing in life that can happen to you.
Yeah, I
You know, that's not, you know, losing a limb or whatever, but getting spit in your face by another man,
Yeah.
it's almost all you can see is red. That's so I don't want them to do that. And what would happen when we'd take them to the Afghan National Prison in Kabul, and I would warn them, because we were taking guys, we were taking the ANA with us, the Afghan National Army. We were training them how to be security guys.
Okay.
So we're taking them with us to take detainees to the main internment facility in Kabul, which is an Afghan-run prison.
Yeah.
So we're rolling in a Chinook helicopter or whatever. We got 4 or 5 guys on a cable, and we're taking them. And I'm telling the guys, because I've seen this happen, and that's why I gave them the heads up. And I told them, I said, you better tell your guys, and I'm telling the interpreter to tell them this, our trainees, you better tell them that shit you pulled with us, you better not pull over there, because they're going to take you behind the building, and I'm going to see a flashbang. So I said, and I tell the guys, you better warn them now. You do that crap when we were detaining you. You do that crap over there at the internment facility.
Yeah.
You're losing your life before you go inside the internment facility.
Oh, wow.
So I said, I'm putting it out there, because all we're going to do is we're going to step off the back of the Chinook, and we're going to watch you guys go. And when you get handed over, see ya.
It's a different
So,
world.
Hey, it's a life of your own. So,
Okay, so you were in boot camp when the war started.
that's Desert Storm. Yeah.
And how much time beyond boot camp were you in?
Oh shit! I was a half mile off the coast of Mogadishu when the first Black Hawk went down. Has everyone seen Black Hawk down?
Yeah.
I was half mile off the coast.
So you were
I
right
picked up
in the
the
middle.
Growler phone. I'm actually one of the first people in the world to know that the Black Hawk went down. You guys didn't know in the States until way later.
Yeah.
So actually, there was these old Growler phones. See, this is back in the time when you just waited on mail. You didn't have communications. No one was texting anyone. No one. So you don't. The old Growler phones were these old brass phones that sounded like. And
Yeah,
so I
Growler.
turned it over to someone higher up, because I was an E3 at the time. So we were a half mile off the coast. And then the captain said, everyone inside the skin of the ship, because the Somali pirates were actually shooting from Mogadishu. They were shooting at the ship, because what happened, we were over there for Operation Restore Hope. So we pulled into port. We're doing aid, and you guys can look it up. Operation Restore Hope was, they were so malnourished and stuff, because the drug lords over there were taking everything, raping the women, doing all that crap that they do. And I know every terrorist organization over there, it continues to happen. And let's not get into Al-Shabaab and Boko Haram, what they do, but it's disgusting. But they ended up killing a couple peacekeepers. So they robbed a convoy. So one of our convoys, and at this point I was on an LPH-11, an amphib. So actually didn't even know that my buddy was on there until like a month ago. So I didn't even know.
You trade stories and you found out?
Because it was, we had 65 helicopters on there, and we had, the personnel was probably 4,000 maybe. Right. I had no idea that he was on the New Orleans in '93 during Operation Restore Hope. So anyway, long story short, so that was just, we got extended. We were so mad, because not only did it start that conflict, but it led us into a 6-month extension, which we were supposed to be home by Halloween. We didn't get home till after Christmas, into January, February, so into '94. So we were actually, just going to be heading home. Everyone, but no. So we stayed out there for a long time.
So going back to what you would advise new recruits,
New
is really
recruits-
think about.
New recruits got to, you know, and there's a term in the military that I know Fidel has heard a million times. Every service member has heard, you got to be flexible. You got to be flexible. You don't have to be scared of what's going to happen or what, you know, or the possibilities. You're going to get the best training in the world. You're going to meet the best friends in the world you've ever met. And only, and no disrespect, Jim, did you, sir? No disrespect to you, but there's only certain things like this trip I just had to Vegas with the guy I served with 15 years ago.
Yeah.
It's like we went to bed in that Connex box last night, woke up to, you know, mortars
Pick up
being
right where you left
like,
off.
and we were joking about it, and my son and Louis there, and Louis never served, but Bobby, my son, he's 25, and they were just like, holy shit, you know. He was like, you did that, you did that happened. That we were telling some stories and stuff, and At was kind of letting some of the stuff out, and they were like, oh, Dad, I didn't know that. I said, you couldn't, because I had never told you, because and like we've talked about before, when I get drunk with my brother, if I get drunk and you know, it's almost those times. That's the only time you really talk about certain things. That's only. And I was drunk with my buddies, you know, and we talked about it. So.
Is that for you? Is that part of is it a healing process? The sharing, or
you know what? I don't know about. I wouldn't say healing. I would just say it's try to forget. And see, when I went to my PTSD counselor, her name's Lori Williams, fantastic psychologist, whatever you want to call her.
Yeah.
But she didn't serve, and I had a few questions for her. And I said, you could never understand, why would I want to talk about stuff that I've been trying to forget for 14 years or whatever, you know? So I think it's the healing only comes with time. And that's for anything, for childhood trauma or for anything. Say a child, you know, goes through traumatic experiences as a youth.
Yeah.
They probably don't ever get over it. They probably don't, but they forget about it. Like you can suppress it to a degree. I think the more you don't think about it, I think I've only cried in front of my wife maybe once, maybe twice. I don't know.
Yeah.
But and that's what it like, you know, if I start to talk about it, and there's been a couple traumatic incidents for me where I want to forget with all of my life.
Yeah.
But if I start thinking about it, I'll start crying. And I don't want to do that. I don't ever want to do that.
Yeah.
Right? You don't want to do that. So healing, no such thing. I think it's just time. Time's the only thing for me. Let's move on to Fidel. Like, you know, because it's for me, I think every veteran's different, like as far as the way they cope. That's why I look so much up to him, because him being so young and so level-headed and such a good father and such a good, he's a role model to me, and I got him by like 20 years.
Yeah.
And he's a role model to me. No, seriously, I look up to him like I haven't looked up to a lot of people in my life. I can count on one hand where I can say I look up to a guy and be like, you know, it's amazing for me that he didn't pick up the bottle and hit it hard. And he probably did for a little bit, but he's been able to control all his demons and get all his priorities in order.
Yeah.
And live it to the fullest. He lives life better than most people with two legs have. It's amazing to see the quality of a young man. And like I told you earlier, if that would be me, I'd be Lieutenant Dan. I'd be pissing everyone off and cussing at people and angry because I've already kind of have a gene in me that makes me kind of a little impatient and a little over the top with stuff.
Yeah.
He's got that, like, he just, you should see him coach. I mean, he just has, I'm out there yelling at the girls, and he's just telling them what they need to hear in a good tone.
It's a balance, though. It's a good balance.
He's just, and that's why, and like you said, you can never go wrong with a military assistant coach. And I knew when I saw him on paper, I was like,
that's my guy.
That's my dude right there. So he's just a fantastic role model. and all he does, and we'll talk about, you know, he'll talk about what he does, but I just look up to him big time because like I said, the guilt that old guys have, old vets have that have been there, done that, and then you see a young guy, especially quality young guys that lose their life or lose a limb. It's hard to deal with. It's hard to deal with. It's hard for me to wake up each day knowing, you know, that guy's not coming home, or that guy's coming home without a leg. That's a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah.
And I can't ever underestimate that. That's what people don't understand. Most people can get on with life. You know, that sucks for them. It sucks for them. For me, it never goes away. Like that guilt never ever goes away. So, you know, you lose some good. And I sent you that one thing I did with the news a few years ago.
Yeah.
And that's what I think about yesteryear's guys too. I think about, you know, Vietnam guys, World War II guys, Korean guys. And I got to visit the wall here a couple weeks ago, and I got to go to the Korean wall, and I got to, you know, do a lot of stuff in Washington, D.C. that I've been needing to do for a long time. You know, I know this, my barber, he cuts the hair of this 80-year-old guy, and and we're in the barbershop sometimes. He wears his old vet hat and stuff, and we chop it up. And he said, Scott, he said, can you just, when you get to the wall, can you just touch it for me?
He said that?
And I touched the wall for him, and I can't wait to get back and just, you know, I'm going to see him at the shop someday this week. Whenever I get my hair cut, I'll see him and just tell him I touched the wall for him, you know, because that wall's endless. I don't know if you guys have seen the Vietnam Veterans Wall. I'm going to show you a video. It's endless. Yeah, like there was 50.
It's awesome.
It's unbelievable. And the way they do monuments in Washington, D.C., it's just a lot of credit to the time, effort, and money that they put into them. You know, whether it's, I mean, just everything that they do. The 9/11 memorial at the Pentagon's unbelievable. So we'll go into that another day. But it's when you think about guys from the Vietnam era and the Korean era that did what they did and came home to what they came home to, it's just, me and Fidel, we signed up to do a job. Just like you're a teacher. You're a teacher.
Yeah.
You're a hero. Jim's a hero. You guys are teachers. You guys go to work every day and you teach the youth and you educate. That's all we were doing. We were just doing jobs. We're doing jobs. We signed up to go to work, and that's what we did. We learned how to do something, and we went and did it. So people can call us heroes. Teachers, in my eyes, I'll strangle a 15-year-old. You know, I couldn't do it. You know what I'm saying? I couldn't do it. You're a hero. Jim, you're a hero. I'm sorry, you might have to edit that. Oh yeah, you might have to edit. If I get a 15-year-old that's out of line during class and wants to make a mockery of my classroom, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
You're just saying what we're thinking.
Okay.
Hey, we get the other Scott on that one.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. You know, but I'm a fun-loving guy. You know, I'm a great guy. You know, in my own mind, I think I'm a pretty decent human being. But I just expect others to be really considerate and like me. Like the other day, 2 days ago, and you can ask Naomi when you see her at practice. She told my wife about this last night. We're heading to school and we're running a little late. She's got to be there by 8. It's like 7:55, but we're right there. It's only about 3 minutes. So we're on Dowdy, and there's a long line of cars. Light turns red. This like 6, and the high school's right there. We live right by East Campus. He steps up, holds up, he just stops traffic. He's like 17. And
walking as slow as possible.
I told Naomi, I said, you want to know what a hilarious viral video would be? One of these days, one of these punks gets flipped up on a hood of a car that doesn't see him walking. And she's like, Dad. And she told Q that night, my wife's name's Q. And she just looks at me, gives me the look like, and I was like, it's just the inconsideration and the lack of respect. And that's what I expect from everybody. Like, and I don't know, maybe I'm just different. I'm from an older era.
Yeah.
Like you grew up, like I'm sure you and your elders were like, you know, you respected.
Yeah, treat them a certain way.
And you treated them a certain way, and you just did things a different way. I just think we're losing a lot of that in today's era. You know, I just think we're losing a lot of that. So, it makes me sick to my stomach, and sometimes I say stuff. My kids all know I'm a little bit, I speak my mind. Everything's on my sleeve. You can read me like a book. So, I can't hold
You
hold
send them
anything.
basic training, they get humbled real quick.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I'm saying. I think everybody should. I said kids should serve 2 years. Should be a minimum. Where is that in Israel?
Yeah, Israel.
You got to serve 2 years.
Germany, I believe.
Germany.
At least basic training.
Yeah,
It'd be,
at least you
would
got to go to
be-
boot camp.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Well,
right
what we could
right
do
after high
is
school.
we could modify it and just have, Sergeant Scott
Right?
do a little,
Teach
do a
them a
little
bunch of.
Yeah, just give me 2 weeks with you. Just give me 2 weeks.
Give me 2 weeks. I'll turn him around.
Yeah, and that's why, and it's just about, and I wouldn't go to the extreme, but I just want young people to kind of learn that consideration in life, treating others. That's what my mom, before she passed, and she said it for 50 years, treat others the way you want to be treated. Like if you live by that, you'll never have a problem in life. But people don't do that. They just
True.
don't.
We kind of forget. Okay, kids, Kings County kids, look out. Sergeant Scott is on the
coming for you.
He's coming. All right, so with that introduction, right, Fidel.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good.
No, that was amazing, Scott. Thank you for sharing that. And so when I spoke to Scott about coming on the podcast, he couldn't say enough about you. He's like, hey, if I'm coming, I got to bring my guy, Fidel. And I'm like, all right.
Honestly, can you imagine just me? It just would not be. I mean, come on, man.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. I love the whole balance of you two.
No.
And so let's start the beginning of your journey, which at one point you made a decision to enlist.
Yeah.
And what was that based off of?
So I was pretty good in high school. All my school, I was pretty good. Honor student, and high
Good
school I did
grades.
good grades.
Good job. Hanford
So,
Bullpup?
I went to Riverdale Cowboys
Oh, that's
High
right,
School.
Riverdale Cowboys.
Yeah, I grew up in Corcoran.
There
went
it
to
is.
Riverdale.
Shout out to Riverdale.
Riverdale Cowboys, and then so I went to Lemoore West Hills for the associate's degree and all that.
Yeah.
Just the community college, and then goal was to transfer to a bigger college. But I don't know, something got to college, and it wasn't really my thing anymore. Like, I don't know if it was just in the high school, it was a little easy, so it got boring, and I was just kind of going through the motions. I got to get good grades, kind of doing it for my parents, and the whole respecting and stuff like that. But I was big in basketball, so I was always the guy that got everybody together and play basketball in Hanford and just in the weekends and stuff like that. And two of my buddies were talking about joining the Army, and I think they've been wanting to do it for a while. I don't know if they tried the test, the ASVAB test you got to take before, and I don't know if they failed. And I know my cousin was talking about it.
Yeah.
And I had a uncle who joined the Marines, and then my older cousin joined the Army, and she's maybe about 5 years older than me. So seeing them go, and then me seeing myself not focusing on school anymore, I just didn't want to do nothing. I want to do something in my life. I want to do something positive. And my goal was to go join the military, and then come back and do some kind of highway patrol, some kind of police officer. You had to be 21 for that.
Yeah. What year was this when you started thinking about the military?
So it was right after high school. I graduated in 2009, and
So
then
about 2010, you started.
So
thinking that?
I would say maybe the end of 2009. I worked summer with my dad right after high school, tried to earn some money.
Yeah.
I have a twin brother. So
Oh, okay.
it was me and my twin brother.
Wow.
We were working together, and
Did he consider enlisting as
he
well?
joined the Army after I did.
okay.
Yeah, so we got to get into that too. But so I have a twin brother, and then we worked together in the summer.
Identical twins, or
Supposedly, I don't think we look alike, but yeah.
do they, Scott?
He wishes he looked like me. No. But
you can tell a little bit difference. But
Oh,
no,
okay.
yeah,
you
but
can definitely tell they're brothers.
yeah. And then so I went to I did the first semester of community college. The second semester started, and I felt bad because my parents paid for that second semester, but
Yeah.
it was maybe in January, I was like, late December, I was already thinking about it. Early January, I told my mom, because I knew she was going to be like, no. I was like, Mom, I'm going to the Army. She goes, what? What do you mean? I was like, I can't do school anymore. I'd rather join the Army and then maybe come back and do something after.
Yeah.
You know, that was
Tell Biden to give her money back.
yeah. And then so I told her, you know, I'm gonna go to the Army. She kind of tried to talk me out of it. We had a long conversation about it, but I found out what I needed. The requirements was, you know, be able to do a certain mile, certain push-ups, pass the ASVAB, stuff like that. So I just got on top of it. I was more motivated to do that than anything else in school or, you know, just anything else that I was seeing around in Riverdale. And then so I just put in the work, started doing push-ups in my room, started doing sit-ups, started running, started studying for the ASVAB. My cousin and my older my friend that wanted to join before I did, I even left before then because they just didn't have that.
They were kind of sitting on it.
They were kind of like, they were kind of like just not fully committed to it. So they were so as soon as they saw me leave, they just went at it too. So they just passed the ASVAB. So I went in, I joined the infantry, 11 Bravo, got sent out to Fort Benning, Georgia.
That was boot camp.
That was my boot camp. So I got there in February of 2010.
Yeah.
So I got there in February 2010. So I was there for, I want to say it's 3 months of boot camp. And I didn't know that my cousin had joined too. So, you know, every Friday, I think it was every Friday, Saturday night, they start sending out letters. And then my drill sergeant's like, Private Bobadilla. And then the address comes from the same Fort Benning. And it says, from Private Acosta in a different building. I forgot, you know, whatever company he's
So
in.
he was writing letters from another building?
Well, yeah.
Is it
we're
that
like,
isolated? Like you don't see anyone else?
No, you know, it's just you got about four platoons per company.
Yeah.
So you're
And that's
kind of
it.
just in those 4 platoons pretty much. So then everybody's like, you got a boyfriend out here? And I'm like confused. I'm like, who the heck is writing to me?
Yeah.
Finally, I see as Acosta. I was like, oh, it's my cousin. And then so we ended up writing to each other. We get to meet up at a church just to kind of, but you can't really talk. It's like, hey, walking, kind of marching. And, hey, what's up? What's up? Hey, you made it out here? Yeah. And then, so he was in basic.
Socializing is at a minimum.
And then, so once in a while, we got our phones. And once in a while, I had my phone out there, but it was.
How's the phone thing work? Because there was no cell phone when you were there, right? Is it they just put them in a box and you can't?
Yeah, so pretty much all your stuff that you go in with.
Yeah.
It was I just had a backpack with like clothes and pretty much the same shoes I'm wearing, but just older ones, and they were just all shoved into a backpack and then the phones that were given to the drill sergeants.
Yeah.
So you had your number. I was 203. So you know they just put the 203 on the
No phone, nothing. Just
no phone, no nothing. We went through phases. So it was red phase, blue phase, white phase. So red phase, they were meant to break you down. They were meant to no sleep, no food.
This is the one we see in the movies that tells us.
Yep, the one that scares people to
Yeah,
not
it's like,
join.
no,
Yeah,
everybody
so-
talks about the sergeants and the
I've
boot
never
camp.
seen any of them rolling trash cans, aluminum trash cans down the aisles at 4:45 in the morning. I've
No,
never seen them.
I remember my
Oh.
first night. We went to bed at 1 a.m. They woke us up 3:30 in the morning,
2
4 in the
hours?
morning, and it's just making us. Nobody expected it, so everybody's kind of just sleeping in underwears or those shorts, topless, and so we're out there in the cold. It was freezing, and they just
And
make us
whatever
stand there for no reason.
whatever you were wearing, you were out there.
Yeah, whatever. Everybody's just going outside, and we're just standing there for no reason. Just half the stuff we did made no sense, but it's just a training thing. And like he said, you gotta be flexible. You gotta accept it. I remember the day that I accepted that I was in the Army and I was gonna accept whatever they told me was because we had a random cleanup of the bay, which is where we're staying inside. It was like 60 bunkers and 60 guys. The guy, so I was 203, 204. The guy that was pretty much my bunkmate left his hanger coat in accident on my locker. So you know, drill sergeants, they want to see spotless, no wrinkles on the bed.
Yeah.
Pretty much just seeing the movies,
Yeah.
clean. And I'm just standing in bay, feeling good. You know, what I mean, I did everything
I'm
right.
covered. I'm good.
I'm good. I just hear, who's 204 or 203? And I was like, wait, that's me. I'm like, that's me, drill sergeant. And then so he's like, he starts telling me to get over here, and And then I go look, and then he goes, "Why? This is your room. You could just leave your hanger here." I'm like, "That's not my drill sergeant. You're calling me." So you can't say anything because now you're the bad guy. So now you're calling me a liar.
Oh my God.
And he puts me in the middle of the bay, and makes me start doing push-ups. I'm just doing push-ups, and he just says the worst of the worst things.
Oh,
Soldiers like this is why you're gonna die. Pieces of crap like him is out there, and I'm just like, I know who I was, and I'm like, that ain't me. What the heck? I'm just like, so I'm just doing push, and I told myself, you know what? I'm getting paid to look good. So I just started that day. My mentality changed. You know, just like him, I was like, man, what the heck did I get myself into?
I wanted to go home.
I was like,
Do you feel like everybody has that moment?
Everybody
I
has
think
that
everybody.
moment because I never saw Rebello, my drill instructor, Rebello. I never saw his eyes till graduation. It was kind of like, what was that? An Officer and a Gentleman. Remember
Yeah.
when Mayo
They
goes
kinda
to
flip on you.
Mayo goes up
Yeah.
to Louis Gossett Jr. and then like, get out of here, Mayo.
Yeah, they respect you. They respect you at the end.
Yeah. So I never saw Rebello's eyes. He wore dark sunglasses, so you never knew where he was looking. So, and you know how your feet had to be in a 45.
Yep.
So my feet were one time we were in ranks. We were 3 rows deep in ranks,
Yeah.
and my foot was like at about a 55 or a 60. And I just tried to get it into 45.
That happened to me too.
And he came running. I saw him running, and I was just like, fuck. So he came running. I had to do
Put your
push-ups.
mic.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I had to do push-ups. Push-ups for days. Like it seemed like, doesn't it seem like when they do that, it seems like hours, but it's only like 15
Yeah.
minutes.
I don't
But
know.
it feels like it's just forever
I
because
don't know how
everyone's
these drill sergeants see everything. Same thing with me. The first
how do you
day,
see it?
we just got done. They're naming us. We're lining up in formation, and same thing. I kind of misstep on my left leg, and it was starting to hurt. I was like, and I see my drill sergeant walk towards the bay to open the doors to start letting us in. And as soon as I see his back, I just get comfortable. He turns around, rushes at me, starts yelling in my face. I'm just saying the correct stuff. No, drill sergeant. Yes, drill sergeant. He's like, no, why did you do it? I'm just like,
But
I was hurting.
But you know what you notice if you look hard enough and watch long enough? He does it to everyone.
No, yeah. No.
Everyone gets it. All you can concentrate on is yourself, though.
Yeah.
You can only focus on yourself.
So
you
you
can
think you're
only
getting
think, "Oh
picked
my
on."
God, I'm a screw up. I'm
Yeah.
a like." But if you just are patient enough and start watching,
Yeah.
it's the red period is the breakdown period.
Yeah.
He's breaking. He has to. That's part of his job, is not to break just me and Fidel down. He's got to break everyone in the whole unit down.
Yeah.
It's his. He can't leave one out. So it may not be today, may not be in 2 days, but in 3 days, that guy right next to you, he's going to get it. You won't get it again. You could even do that again. He's not going to come to you. He's got to get to you, and he's got to just mow you over and over.
Break you down to build
Break
you
you,
up.
yeah.
So
And-
a lot of people want to quit in the red phase.
Right.
A lot of people speak about it, like,
Yeah.
hey, I don't want to be here. But you can't. It's meant to break you down. Now, the blue phase, if you're really you really don't want to be there. We had one guy, and he had to lead to talking about suicide in order
Yeah,
to
they
start
may
getting
have to, yeah.
pushed out.
Wow.
If not, they wouldn't. The army or the drill sergeants were gonna be like, "Hey, you're just being a wimp, toughen up type of thing."
Yeah.
But we had to do suicide watch. He was on number 202, so it was between 201, 203. Hadn't pull watch on him, so I was getting mad. I'm like, already we barely sleep. So eventually, we were doing every night. Somebody has to do fire guard every hour, so we switch out. There's the weapons in the middle. Randomly, drill sergeants will come in and while people are asleep and try to grab a gun. If you get that grab, the gun, one gun grab, he'll wake up everybody.
Yeah,
Everybody's
and
doing
be on you.
push-ups, or maybe he'll just punish the two depending on what mood he's in. And then sometimes they'll pull an all-nighter, and we see the same guys. I'm like, oh, they grabbed the gun, huh? He's like, yep, we're pulling all-nighter because they came in, and so they weren't watching. They weren't pulling security how they're supposed to. So eventually, one drill sergeant kind of like pushed us to like kind of bully him to like, because he was like, I want to quit, I don't want to quit. So he like, why is he still here? And I was like, I don't know, drill sergeant, what do you mean? He's like, nah, like, why is he still here? I'm like, okay. So then after that, we just started like pushing them during runs, like, hey, nah, you gotta get up there. You're gonna make me do pull suicide watch. You better run, and so eventually he kind of just like, I'm out of here. So he ended up, he ended up wanting to quit, and I saw him my graduation. He was still there working in the lunch line in the cafeteria serving food. So I don't know how long it took him to actually get out of the basic training.
But things happen so fast and so, like, I'll never forget getting off the bus.
Oh, yeah.
The bus is probably the worst experience.
you're
And not
new.
even
Nobody
24
tells you
hours
anything.
after that, I had no hair. I had 4 wisdom teeth gone, and I had all my gear. So
Wait, they took you.
yeah,
bunch of
I was a
shots.
bloody mess. And back then, the wisdom teeth just came out by pliers.
Oh, really?
So
Damn.
What?
Oh yeah. So I was on a gurney. Before you knew it, I looked like Jason Voorhees got a hold of me.
Wow.
I didn't know wisdom teeth were part of the deal.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I got
Wisdom-
mine pulled out in high school, so I got lucky.
Oh yeah, they would have pulled them out. They'd have pulled them out first thing. Anyone that didn't have wisdom teeth out, boom,
wow.
they're plucking them out like chiclets. So it's just it was like everything happens so dang fast. You ain't got time to think. Like you don't have time. Like everything
No
is a
sleep.
constant no sleep.
No food.
You're on high alert like 24/7. And like when are these aluminum trash cans going to be coming rolling down this aisle? You know, so you're constantly on high alert, like he said. And when you're standing fire watch, you better be on. You better not even think about dozing off, because if you do, if you got it, that's punishable by death. Technically, they wouldn't really do it, but if you fall asleep on watch, you're technically. They say it's punishable. Like they. I don't think it's under the treason thing, but it's under the thing where you fall asleep on watch, you can spend time in the brig. You know,
I heard one that, so you guys can verify for me, was that during boot camp, your opportunity to eat is minimal.
Oh no, I got seconds. That red phase, seconds. As soon as it was about maybe, if it was either 3 or 4 per side of the table. So as soon as that first guy sat down, you better start eating, because by the time that last guy sat down, you're done.
get up.
That last guy
Yeah.
didn't even get to eat.
Yeah, and my wife still asks me to this day. She asks why I eat so fast because
Yeah. And it just, me and my brother just like it was like a competition, just trying to eat fast.
You know
I'm
how
like,
many
why?
nicknames? Like, talking about my nicknames, Rob. You know how many nicknames I got? The garbage disposal, the Wolverine, the Rottweiler. I mean, I have so many nicknames. It's not even funny.
What that leads to is all those sneaking in.
Yeah.
And then drill sergeants just
Oh,
they
don't
smell
let-
it. They know when somebody brings in food, and they're just watching us because they know it's gonna happen. And then right away, at least every other night, they'll find somebody else just getting
Or you
smoked.
hide it in your locker, or
So they'll try to put it in their pockets. I mean, we got a lot of pockets on our uniform, so they'll shove it into a pocket and then get into the locker or whatever, and then try to eat it real fast. But I don't know, drill sergeants, I think they have cameras in there because they see everything. They see everything. It's crazy.
So you finally make it out of boot camp.
Yep.
What's next for you?
So technically, it was red phase, blue phase, white phase, which was technically boot camp. And then we were sitting our graduation. We sat there at outside on formation, and they made us do an about phase, which is a full 360.
yeah.
They're like, well, welcome to your what's it called, AIT. There's like our other training. So a medic would probably go to a different school after
This is
basic
where you
training.
get specialized.
So now it's like, all right, we're gonna focus on infantry. So
Okay.
basic training is kind of like the basics of everybody kind of goes through it, and then we kind of just did an about phase and just back to.
And from there, where did you?
So we were there
location-wise,
for
where'd you
another 4. I think it was 4 to 6 weeks of training, and then same thing. My parents went out there to see me graduate,
that was huge.
and
huh?
yeah,
That
and
was
then.
huge.
So it was technically 2 graduations. Like I don't know what, I can't remember fully, but it was, they were there. They got confused too, because it was like, it's 2 graduations. I don't know what happened, but so they were there kind of like for a week long, an accident, and then we drove back from basic training. I got
Oh, they
two-
drove out there.
they drove
wow.
out there, and they took my wife now, and another friend, so they went out there too, and then we drove back. And then, so right before leaving, that's when they told me I was going to get stationed in Alaska. I was like, Alaska has a base? What do you mean?
Yeah,
Hey,
I'm just
you know?
asking it right now.
I didn't know that Alaska
Where
had
at?
a base.
Do you know?
Oh, I was in
You're
Fort Wainwright.
See, because of all the movies, for me, Alaska is either 30 Days of Darkness where vampires come out, or forests where Martians
Bears and-
abduct.
Oh, yeah.
Those are my 2 Alaska
Yeah.
visions.
Yeah,
What was-
so they're saying going to Alaska, and I signed up for Hawaii. I signed up for Texas. I signed up
all the
like,
warm
Oh,
places.
yeah.
Alaska.
You would have loved Schofield Barracks.
Yeah.
And
Trust
they-
me, I love K-Bay.
Oh, yeah.
You would have loved Schofield
They said,
Barracks.
"Hey, be flexible."
Yeah. So I got 2 weeks off after AIT, and then I went home for 2 weeks, and then got sent off to Alaska.
Jeez.
Then after
Yeah.
Alaska, how long were you in Alaska for?
I got to Alaska. I got there, like the same thing. Movies. I was expecting snow, ice.
Yeah.
I got there in June. I got there at midnight, and it looked like it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It was
Whoa.
daylight, 24/7. I was in Fort Wainwright and what's the city there? Fairbanks, Alaska, and then so it was daylight all day.
That's just wow.
Daylight all the way until the winter hit. Then the daylight started shortening, and then we got maybe, that morning light in the sunrise
Yeah.
that we get here. We got that about an hour, just that morning light.
That's it.
From noon to like 1, we got that morning light, and then darkness again.
So sleep patterns are all
Suicide, sleep patterns, depression.
Yeah.
We couldn't train, so everybody started gaining weight. Little stuff like that. PT went down, declined. So I
Physical
got to Alaska. And the first thing they tell me, they're like, "You're the 240 machine gunner." I was like, "What?" I didn't. First of all, I knew what it was, but I never carried it or anything like that. It was a big machine gun. And then so they told me the reason I was a 240 machine gunner is because on my basic training I was good at running and I was pretty strong. So I was like, "What?" I was like, the whole time, the first 2-3 months, I was trying to get rid of it. They made us do push-ups for it, and I just sucked at it on purpose. I was like, I can't do push-ups. They're like, no, you're still the 240 machine gunner. I was like, oh my god.
No.
And then so I just got stuck with it, 240 machine gunner, up until.
So you got crew served. You were on the 50 cal too.
We trained for it, but I was in the striker unit. It's I don't know if you guys know what a striker is. It's kind of like a pointy end in the front, and it just has 4 wheels, and it's pretty much to carry troops. But on top, they could either attach the 50 cal or they could attach the Mark 19, which is a grenade launcher. And then the 240 machine gunners, they tend to be at the end in a hatch. We're standing on a seat, and we lock our machine guns and we pull security. So
If you want to look that up, Jim, it's a 240 Bravo. That's a nice weapon right
So
there.
I think they changed it
I
to
want one for
240
myself,
Lima.
but they want. Oh, they changed it to Lima.
240 Lima is lighter. When I got there, it was a 240 Bravo, and now they changed it to and then during my service they changed it to 240 Lima.
Wow.
Just a little bit lighter.
Yeah,
so
we
the
got
train
it.
that's all happening in Alaska where you
So I was in
train this side?
Alaska, I shot perfect, and with iron sights I shot perfect with scopes, so it just fit me.
And
I was
so
I was
when
able
did
to carry it.
When do you move on to your next location?
So from there, we trained. We started getting, I want to say it was maybe November, December, we started getting orders that we were going to go to Afghanistan. It was rumors because we weren't even, Alaska wasn't a full company. It was like we were short on people. We barely, my company barely made platoons, and I think other companies barely even had enough people.
Well, you know why it was, and I don't want to take too much time, but because we were short-handed. It was the deadliest year of the war.
It was,
I
a lot of people weren't joining no
we
more.
were losing people right and left.
Yeah.
And a quick story, if you guys read books and like a good read,
Yeah.
our 4-star out there, Stanley McChrystal, he got railroaded, and I'll tell you the story later. But Stanley McChrystal got railroaded by Obama and his administration. He put Petraeus in charge. Petraeus was out there when you were out there.
Okay.
So, but McChrystal, I got a challenge coin from him in Kandahar, and he was a real straight-laced guy. He was a counter-intelligence guy like no other. He was liked by all the troops. Petraeus was. We'll talk about that later. But Doing My Part by Stanley McChrystal. Read it.
Doing My Part.
They said Obama's administration said that McChrystal had said something about Biden in Rolling Stone magazine, which was garbage. The reason that he retired him out, he sent him home from Afghanistan. The reason is because in Stars and Stripes, were you getting Stars and Stripes out there? The newspaper?
Newspaper?
The military newspaper.
Oh, okay.
So our 4-star out there was publicly telling Obama, we need more troops. We were at 60,000 in country total. So Mountain Division was getting rocked like crazy. I mean, it was just horrible. But every patrol and security team was undermanned. Guys were dying right and left. In order to save guys, and he knows this, you send more. Either bring us all home or send more out. You can't just keep letting security teams and patrols going out undermanned. It's bad for business. So anyway, he told Obama a couple times, send 35,000 more troops. We need the troop count at 100,000. But because it was an election year, Obama, and it ain't because he's black. My wife's black. My kids are all mixed. It has nothing to do with that. Obama's a piece of garbage because he left us all hanging out because he wanted to win an election. That's why he didn't send. And then I see him when we get home in 2010, and then his poll numbers are all up and everything. Then he stands at the podium and says he takes all the credit for sending 30,000 more troops. Well, what about in 09?
Yeah.
Because I came home in February 2010. What about in 09? So I still have this, as you can tell, I still got this little thing in my heart.
Yeah.
But then again, it's politics.
Yeah.
Just like journalism. It's all lies. It's all based on BS, you know, and it's, you know, you don't know the full story until you know the full story. And I learned so much in Afghanistan, being a trainer and doing what I did. Hawalas. The guys that we were training weren't even getting paid. You know why? Because the Bank of Kabul was a Ponzi scheme. You can look it up. I knew that, and it was also puzzling because we were working with the CIA and the FBI. They'd come interrogate the guys we'd bring in, and then I ran into a DEA agent out there. I was like, huh, been doing this shit 20 years. Even when I was in Panama doing drug ops, didn't see DEA. There was so much. It's a river of dirty money, and I actually.
I think Scott needs to write a book too.
Yeah.
Well, I told my wife I was going to write a book.
Yeah.
I know a lot of stuff. I've seen a lot of stuff. And during that year in Afghanistan, I saw so much horrible stuff.
Yeah.
And so many crooked, devious and bad stuff. And I know the true story about when Obama was given, or when Osama bin Laden was given up. The CIA will tell you this whole story, and I can get Martinez on a conference call right now. Me and Martinez know when he was given up. You know, the interrogation room. I'm going to tell you guys a story real quick.
Yeah.
This is give me a Bible. You got a Bible?
We have one in here?
Yeah, I'll put my right hand on a Bible. This is a true story.
Wow.
This is a true story. Okay, so it's an October night in Kandahar. We get called out. So me and Martinez head out. Who else was with us? There was a third guy. We go out. Oh, we had our ANA with us and the interpreter. So we go out here. We pick up this guy. It's Bin Laden's nephew. Bin Laden's swear to God, it was Bin Laden's nephew. So it was a high value target. So we had a lot of security on it. We put the eyes and ears on him, put him in shackles, put him in eyes on him, got him back to. Now, mind you, I was at a small field detention site in Kandahar. We couldn't hold guys for long. 2 days, 3 days, maybe. We only had a few cells.
Yeah.
So we get back. We actually had 2 guys there. Well, we couldn't put Bin Laden's nephew in there. We had to hold him till the next day, till the CIA agent came from Bagram. Okay. So I talked to Buckin, and he said, yeah, we'll put him in the interrogation room upstairs, lock him to the desk, which was bolted down. So we gave him a prayer rug, we gave him a bottle of water, we gave him some shit paper. He howled at the moon for 24 hours. Didn't say a word. Did not say a word. Wouldn't eat. Refused meals. We're waiting on this guy. He's supposed to be flying in, getting there sometime around in the afternoon on the CIA agent. So me and Martinez, we go up to the room. We're trying to get this guy to talk. He won't just stop crying and get off his prayer rug. He's facing the sun, doing all his thing. And this CIA agent comes with some chai tea and some coffee and some donuts, and he had a whole arms full of stuff. He asked, where he's at. We escorted him to the room, the interrogation room. He said, "You guys have him locked up in here?" I was like, "Fuck yeah, we did. We got guys down there. We can't compromise that." So we kept their gear. When we took them and put them in stuff, we kept their gear in our armory. Our armory smelled like garbage. It smelled like crap. They don't know how to shower. They don't shower over there. So go into that another time. But anyway, so the CIA agent gets in there and won't say, and we uncuff him, everything. It's a two-way mirror. So me and Martinez can see in this glass. He can't see out. Neither one of them can. It's kind of the two-man integrity thing. So I'm sitting out there with Martinez. We're like, he ain't going to talk to him. We're laughing. We're like, good luck. Give him all the chai tea you want. He ain't talking. About 5 minutes later, man, He started singing like a canary. He started like, they were buddy. It was like me and you, Fidel. It was like they were just chopping it up and smiling.
What
like
was his secret sauce to get him to talk?
Don't know. And then all of a sudden, he took him into custody. Took him, fly him off. We never saw him again. 10 months later, in 2010, that was in October. That was in October 2009. Me and Martin, and the CIA takes credit for. They said they saw him. They surveillance. They saw him hanging laundry in Pakistan, doing this, doing that. No.
He just ratted him out.
His nephew gave him up.
Yeah.
That's on record, and that's the first time that story's ever been told outside my family. Yeah. That's the first time that story's ever been told outside my family. Mia Martinez that dude, his nephew, told him he's in Pakistan. I'll tell you where he's at.
Yeah. Wow.
He was crying. It sounded like St. Peter giving up Jesus. He cried all night. He cried all night. Refused food. Didn't get off his prayer rug. And then as soon as the CIA agent came, we're like, he's going to go nowhere with this guy. This is his nephew. He told him where he's at. How long does it take to perform an operation SEAL Team 6 did? 10 months?
Yeah.
10 months? You don't do that in a day. You don't do that in a week. Then they got eyes, but he got given up by his nephew. So the CIA will tell you, we were doing this, we were doing that. The CIA takes credit in every movie. You watch a movie with the CIA in it, and they're I mean, you want to talk about the CIA. What about Camp Campbell in Afghanistan? Do you remember what happened in Campbell? I was there that year in 2009. So in December, I was in Kandahar at the time.
Yeah.
So they get infiltrated. It got turned into, it was an army fob for a while, but Campbell got turned into a CIA operative place. Look it up. 7 or 8 CIA agents got blown up. The guy in the vest, they believed a guy that told a guy that this guy knew something. They brought him onto the base, and I'm a security guy. Like, how the hell do you guys get infiltrated that easy? It's the worst, like, mass
So a
killing
guy came on
CIA.
with the vest.
It was in 2009. It was when we were there. And then all of a sudden it changed protocol for all guys like me and him. It changed protocol for everyone. You know why? Because the CIA freaking literally just let bodies on this base. And this body was not confirmed to be whoever he was. You can look up the story. I vaguely remember it, but I remember it like yesterday when it happened, because this guy goes on to talk, and supposedly he was some CIA informant confidant, and he came in with a suicide vest, all those CIA agents, including the new woman head. A woman just took over, just got made in charge of that base. She just got put in charge. Because that base was named after the first guy killed in Afghanistan, Army Sergeant Campbell or something. So, and the CIA took it over as a little base, and then bringing, and then it was mass casualties. It was all CIA agents, and it was horrible. It was horrible, but so I'm not gonna.
Thank you for sharing that.
So, just a lot of that year was just an awful year.
2009.
Because of course I love the CIA. So just saying in movies they get more credit than they should. That may be true. I don't know. But I still love the CIA. They do their jobs. They do it well. But that guy, I'll never forget the kind of the arrogance that guy had. They look down on us. He comes over. He's kind of just like me and Martinez. We're just a couple of we're just military dudes. You guys are not. I'm CIA. I'll take over from here. I got this. And then he takes Bin Laden's nephew on a plane. And it's just like he had full territorial what do they call it, jurisdiction. He had full freaking. So he was getting his guy and getting out of there. We don't know where he went. He probably went and let him loose in a jungle somewhere or something. He probably said, "I'll take you wherever. You tell me where your uncle's at. I'll take you wherever you want to go right now." Never saw him again. Never heard of him. Never heard it again. But we picked up Bin Laden's nephew. Wow. I'll leave that at that. And we'll swear to this day, the way the conversation went, it was going nowhere for a second. And then all of a sudden, man, he looked like a canary. And they were just in each other's face, laughing and kicking it up. We're like, are they buddies now? What?
Yeah.
He's giving him up. So
Wow.
that's a true story. Nobody knows it, but do yourself a favor and get Doing My Part by Stanley McChrystal.
Yeah.
Get that book.
Doing My Part by Stanley McChrystal.
Yeah, you'll and see. My years in the military changed a lot, obviously, after 9/11. I did half my time before 9/11. I did half my time after 9/11. So I saw it change. You know, especially with the way people. I'd fly into New York in my uniform, and people were stuffing money in my. Yeah, they were like the gratitude and the USOs and everything. The new Pat Tillman Center in Afghanistan. It's fantastic what the public.
And that's
has
all thanks
done.
to the past veterans.
Yeah,
you know, the past wars.
and that's kind of where I go with that. It's just like, guys been doing this a long time, you know, and it's not just been since we got hit on our own turf in New York, you know, which was a tragic day in our history, of course. But I mean, that's what really makes you think about things. Guys are over there all the time. Guys are over there guys are over there right now.
Yeah.
Guys are over there right now. There's guys, you know, and they're having to dodge mortars or dodge rounds or get, you know, and it's like, you know, so that's what you think about.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, I'm glad it's finally catching up, that people understand how horrible, because 9/11, New York City was a war. That was a war. That was what a war looks like. That's what it feels like. And it's horrible that those people had to go through that, but that's the sentiments of war. That's what you know, and I think that's what really just struck home with people. Yeah. So,
so
I don't think I never got thanked, like, for 11 years. Like, you never once, from 90 to 2001, I don't think I ever got thanked for being in the service. Not that I wanted it.
yeah.
But what I'm saying is, then I got overthanked. From 2001 to 2014, here, money, man, here, you know how many benefits I've got from 9/11? Like, you know, it's just, I had a woman, I got on a plane one time, and I was in uniform, and she made me sit in her first class seat. And I was in coach. I said, no, she said, absolutely not. You said, she was like my mom. She's like, you sit down in first class.
Yeah.
You understand me? I said, yes, ma'am. She went and sat in my coach seat. But that's what I'm saying.
Wow.
That never happened before then. That
Yeah.
never happened before then.
And
So,
and in contrast to like coming back from Vietnam.
that's what
Right.
strikes me, because I have a lot of Vietnam era friends and stuff. You know, a lot of the guys that were part of your project were guys that brought me in to the Rotary. They were Vietnam vets: John Kuykendall, Wayne Kuhn,
Yeah,
Bruce.
okay.
Yeah, Wayne Kuhn. He's the one that headed it up.
Yeah,
So
he was in charge of
you know what
everything.
he well, it was really sad. You know what he did? He was a diver, Army diver in Saigon. So he was a recovery diver. He wasn't picking up any live bodies. He was cleaning out dead bodies.
Oh.
So he was an Army diver, and I'll never forget, at the Rotary about 6-7 years ago. It wasn't long after the project. He said, Scott, I'm going to do a presentation at the Rotary, like it's an hour long, on my Vietnam days as an Army diver. And so I said, Wayne, are you sure you're up to that?
Yeah.
He said, I think I'm ready, Scott. I think I can do it. And he had photos that were unbelievable. But I said, Wayne, I don't know. He bawled like a baby during it. And then he kind of regretted doing it. I said, Wayne, it's okay. I said, people understand.
Yeah.
I said, what you did, nobody can ever understand. And you had the pictures that were that were unreal, like they were unreal. You should have seen him, and he was a beast. Wayne Kuhn, he's 80 now,
Yeah.
but he had, and that's what I'm saying. When we start talking about stuff, you're always worried it could strike a chord. I think that's the problem. And you don't think about it. When I said I'm going to go talk to Rob, me and Fidel, we're going to go sit in and be on live, Rob. And we're going to, but you can get to a point where it can strike a chord, and I think he didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
He's not a crier. That's one badass 80-year-old man right there.
And having to relive all that.
But when you start talking about it, you start reliving it.
Yeah.
And you start, then that's when it can really hit home. It's like, so, but
That's good. It's
so-
good. It's good. I think it's good
It
for
is.
us to hear these stories and understand what people have done. And so then, going back to Fidel, you finally get to Afghanistan.
Yeah, We deploy in April.
And you're there for about 2 months.
We were there for, well, me specifically, I was there in April. I got there late April, and then did a couple missions. You know, I was a 240 machine gunner, so sometimes we went on patrol. I had to walk around 240 machine gun, and then when we were on the Striker, when we did patrols on the mounted patrols, everybody's always asking me, "Hey, can I do the two?" Because when it's mounted patrol, we just lock our gun, or the 240 machine guns just locked. And, you know, they get to, instead of being inside in the Striker bore, they're like watching and, you know, just out there seeing the sightseeing and stuff. So every mounted patrol, somebody wanted to take my Striker, and I'm just like, all right, I'm going to sign and sleeping. So I just be inside the Striker sleeping. But when it came to foot patrols, nobody offered. So I'm walking on my freaking 240 machine gun. But yeah, so it was, when I got there, it was still in the like spring, summertime, and it was only IEDs that we kept finding. You know, we were
And
we had
for
the
viewers,
rollers.
explain an IED.
An IED is an improvised explosive device, so they just come up with random stuff and pretty much make an explosive, a bomb, pretty much. And,
From what I understand, are these the ones that are kind of on the road where you can't?
So there's
you go
different
over 'em?
ones. So there's different ones. There's either the pressure ones. They at nighttime. So there was usually we had a curfew, because if we see people at night, the most likely they're trying to plant a bomb or something.
Yeah.
So we're in a small fob, and so
What a fob is.
a fob is, I don't know.
Forward operating base.
So it's a
forward operating base.
little base that's pretty much made up by the soldiers. A bunch of dirt, we call those like dirt boxes. You just fill up with dirt and create walls, and it's just random walls that we make up, and it's just a small little fob. But when I got there, it was already it was a little bit bigger fob. We were mixing with Romanians. Romanians were in that same fob with us, so they were doing their patrols. We had our patrols, and one night we get mortared. It was like at 10 o'clock at night. I had just came back from the shower, so I'm in my PTs, and it's just shorts and a T-shirt. And I just hear a bomb, like an explosion. I'm just like, and then everybody's just kind of listening, and then we hear another one. And then there's times where we would send out mortars. So I'm like, everybody's like, is that us? Is it them? And then as soon as we're in little tents, it was like a tent. And a guy opens the tent, and right in front of our tent is like a metal plate where we used to play basketball. And it's maybe 12 by 12 little area. And a mortar hits right in front. As soon as that he opened the door, it was like, I got the mortar hits, and I just fall to the floor, and everybody just jumps to the floor, and a couple people get it hit the metal, so there's nothing but shrapnel went flying. It's just metal pieces hitting people. I think we had our medic got hit. No, it wasn't our medic. It was who's that guy that reads the mortars? I forgot, they have a name. The guy that reads the mortars, where they're coming from and stuff like that. He got hit in the shoulder. Another guy got hit in the butt. It was like a movie, pretty much. People got hit in the eye. It was just metal flying everywhere. So then eventually we just put eventually we get up, we start putting our gear on, we get under bunkers in case we get mortared again. We didn't get attacked that night, but it was just that first like wake up call. It's like, hey, we're in war. Like, you better, and it could happen anytime. At nighttime, it could happen in the morning.
And it you know, it just seemed like you knew if there was one, you knew there was going to be between about 2 and 7 mortars.
It was
coming in.
never just one.
No.
And do you know what a mortar sounds like?
No.
If Jim threw a football as hard as he could with a good spiral, that's what it sounds like.
Oh,
That's what
okay.
exactly
Cutting
what
through
it
the
sounds
air.
like. It's cutting through the air, and you can hear it coming. And I've got my stories with those, and jumping in bunker. And AT was telling my son, now my son knows. Yeah, I had some really close calls too. But when it's cutting through the air, it's like a gym fastball coming through. It's slicing through the air, and you can feel it. And the worst thing about it is, there's at least 3 to follow.
Yeah.
There's at least
So we got
3
hit.
to follow.
We got hit with 3 that night.
So it could only be 3, but then it could be 7. You don't know, because a lot of them are set on timers. So what they're doing, they're setting up outside the fobs and even Kandahar or whatever base, and they're setting them up on water drip timers or whatever. I can't remember the systems they were using, but they'd be on little mopeds, like probably a mile or two away from the base, and they'd set them up all aimed towards the base, and it'd be one after the other after the other. So they're just kind of, they're going, and then the patrol would shoot off the base. So he'd have his, a patrol would shoot off the base. As soon as the mortars start coming, you get 3 or 4 a convoy going out. So you get 3, 4 Humvees going out to track them down, try to find, but that guy's probably long gone, and those things are going to keep going off.
And that's the type of fight style that I showed up to. There, that's what they were doing. They were just kind of like sneaky bombs, and then just a bunch of IEDs. You see guys here and there, but according to our rules, we can't engage until they engage us. So, you know, it's kind of like some fishy stuff you see, but we can't really react to it. Obviously, I'm just at that point, I was just an E3. So that's like a private first class. And then I was supposed to get my specialist out there, but paperwork happened. I don't know what happened. And then, so being a 240 machine gunner, it kind of jumped up my role in the Army. And I was kind of like already ahead of, or in charge of other privates. Like one guy carried my ammo. Another guy, we didn't have guys for it, but they had to help carry like binoculars and show me where to shoot, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, or you just have Sarge saying,
yeah, or
eyes right.
Yeah, just aim up, aim wherever. So then
left.
we found a bunch of IEDs until that one day that I got hit. It was the easiest mission. All we had to do was same thing as just Army Rangers. All we're gonna do is drop off the other weapons squad. So I was one weapon squad, and they're the other weapon squad. We're gonna drop them off with the Army Rangers. So I'm assuming we went one way, which I remember how it looked. It was just nothing but dunes and dirt and stuff. We get to the Army Rangers, we drop off the squad, and on our way back, we take the same route, which is one of the no-nos you do, and you don't take the same route because they see, they're always watching.
Things you're looking for.
Yeah.
They see you going one way. They know you're going to go back to your fob. They know you got to go back to sleep. So that's all they're doing. They're waiting, and as soon as you come back, there was a guy. I was a third striker, so the 2 strikers get up to the top of the dune. As soon as my striker hit that bottom of the dune, there was somebody waiting and detonated the IED. It was according, there was people that I was in San Diego doing my recovery. According to them, it was one of the biggest explosions they've seen in a while. The tires of the striker are heavy, and they were miles and miles from where the explosion happened. So it detonated right between me. So I was a 240 machine gunner, and the crazy part is that was a mounted mission, right? We were going to go to striker. Like I said earlier, every mounted mission, people always ask to use a 240 machine gunner because they get to sightsee and stuff. So I got a gut feeling that day where it was the lieutenant himself from a different company. He was from the S shop.
Yeah.
He wanted to do the 240 machine gun. I told him, no, sorry, sir, but not today. I had a gut feeling that I needed to be on
there.
that machine gun.
Yeah.
Like he said, you know, you get guilt, you get stuff like that. Imagine somebody else getting hurt or dying on my position, on my weapon. It would have been on my mind. So that was a crazy part of that. It's like I had a feeling that I had to be the mounted. I was like, nope, I'm doing my 240 machine gun today, not today.
How many people were on the vehicle at that
So
point?
in my vehicle, I was the 240 machine gunner on the one hatch, and then we had another guy in the other hatch. Inside we have our medic, because the last truck always has a medic.
Yeah.
And then we had that one guy that got hit with the shrapnel. He was the one calling the mortars. I can't remember their names, but
So it's 4 of you guys in that
we carry
vehicle.
them, and then we had our platoon sergeant in there.
Yeah.
We have the guy controlling the 50 cal. We had the driver, and I think we had one other guy. So it was about maybe seven of us in there. Oh, and then we had our sergeant that died. So from that explosion, it was me and my sergeant. My very first sergeant when I got to Alaska, he was my very first sergeant. By the time we got to Afghanistan, he was a squad leader for a different squad. So, but we were still friends. We were still. I mean, I got drunk with him and stuff like that. So we were really close. So he was actually on top of the striker with me on the hatch. So if he would have stayed up there, he would have been alive, and another guy the guy that he switched with would have been the one passing away. But I think it was like maybe 2-3 minutes, 4 minutes before we got hit with an IED. He's like, you know what? F this Bobby. They call me Bobby because they couldn't say my last name, Bobadilla. So they call me Bobby, like, F this Bobby. I'm going inside. It's still like dusty and everything. I'm all right, sorry, go ahead. And then so he goes in and he switches out with another guy. And yeah, like 3, 4, 5 minutes later, we get hit with an IED. I just remember being up in the air, looking down at my gun, my ears ringing, you know, like I've seen in the movies. And I black out for a couple seconds. I landed, and I got lucky because the hatches open on top of the striker, and they're kind of like facing up in a way. So you open them, they kind of stay in this position. So somehow I got thrown up in the air, and I landed on top of the striker, like underneath the hatch. So if I would have landed on top of it, I probably would have been dead or something. But I landed somehow underneath the hatch. They had to like move me, and at that point, I remember waking up from blacking out for a couple seconds, and I just felt that need to spit. I spit, and it was blood. So that's when I started freaking out. I started yelling for help, and then they finally came trying to move me. I just remember being in pain. I was like, "Nah, don't move me. Like we gotta get you down." So they were able. I don't know how they flipped me, and I was on top of the striker. So they get me into the gurney, and then and I just remember looking down, but I mean, to me it was gone. My left leg was still on. My right leg was completely blown off. I don't know how I didn't see it, but somehow my eyes only went to, or my head could only like face my left side. So I saw that my leg was there. And so in my head, I thought I had both legs. And I'm just like, oh, I'm good. I just got to get patched up. I'll get to the hospital. They'll cover me up and I'll be good to go. That was my mentality. As soon as I saw my leg, I'm like, it's just burnt. It's I remember seeing it was twisted the other way. My foot was like broken and twisted the other way, and it was burnt. I remember just looking at it, and I just laid back, and I just like waited, and they finally got me down. They carried me to the top of the dune to where the other strikers were pulling security, and I remember they came and tried to put in the tourniquet on my leg, but they were trying to lift my leg, and like because we already had the tourniquets kind of set up, so it was supposed to like just slide in. But I remember them trying to lift it. I was like, man, it hurts. So I just took it off, and I put on the tourniquet myself, and I'm just start tightening. I'm like, I can't go no more. You got to go because you got to go until it hurts plus more to get that blood from keep it from flowing. Huh? So I remember just yelling. I'm like, stop it already. Like, no, we got to keep going until you can't no more. And it's just – so I'm just laying there, and I take off my vest, and I just hear that they call the medevac. I just hear my buddy, my how do you call him? My team leader, he came up to me and he's like, "Hey man, Sergeant Sure died." I'm like, "What?" And yeah, the explosion.
That's how you got the news.
I was just laying there and they told me about Sergeant Sure and it just, I guess he took the grunt of the explosion. It was just in his face and no chance. Our medic was in there. All that metal from the striker, it kind of just tore into pieces and it kind of collapsed in and landed on top of him. I think he fractured I don't know how many bones, and the same thing with the other guy that was in there. Our platoon sergeant, everybody else got either kind of TBI, like a traumatic brain injury from the explosion just hitting around and to getting tossed up. And then the medic still got up there and was able to start giving me that morphine. He's over here taking his time. I'm like, man, just put it in me. So he's probably giving me that morphine. I finally just sit there, and I hear the chopper land. As soon as I get in that chopper, I just remember blacking out. Probably woke up and they told me I stopped in Kandahar, had my first amputations kind of like closed up.
And you were asleep for all of that?
I don't remember being in Kandahar. I remember waking up in Germany. I got to talk.
Ramstein?
What's that?
Did they take you to Ramstein?
In Germany, I'm not even sure where. I have no info about it. It was quick. It was like trying to get me back to the States as fast as possible.
Yeah.
I remember just waking up they had to wake me up because they were going to do a blood transfusion. So they had to get my signature. They woke me up, and I asked to talk to my parents. I called them up. I want to say they knew some info already, but I don't know what they knew, and I didn't know anything. In my head, I was still good. I was like,
really?
I'm good. Like, I'm in the hospital. I woke up. I'm good. And then, yeah, so I wake up in Germany. I call them. They told me they're going to fly me out to Washington, D.C.,
And at this point, you still don't know that your
I didn't know I had lost my legs. I was in my head. I was still, hey, I'm gonna come back to Afghanistan and keep fighting.
At what point do you
realize? Did I tell you about
realize?
this guy or what?
Yeah, you did.
Did I tell you about this guy?
And
or
then,
what? Okay.
Yeah.
So it took me a while to find out I lost my legs, and it was probably one of the worst moments of my life. I finally
Who finally told you?
So what happened was, so I finally got to.
Why does anyone need to tell you? Shouldn't you already know?
I don't know. I didn't know.
Like you didn't look down or
I don't know. In my mind, it was just I was good.
Survival mode.
Survival mode, and I was like, I'm good.
He was like,
You know,
I'll be
patch
back
me
on.
up.
Hey, you
I was-
guys want to go play some basketball?
Yeah, I was. And then so what happened? I got to. Is it Walter Reed over in Washington D.C.? I want to say Walter Reed.
Yeah.
In Washington D.C., I get to Walter Reed, and they put me on some heavy anesthesia. And every operation, it was heavy anesthesia. That the recovery after every surgery, because this leg I had it here. I had it maybe midway through my calf. This one was already where it's at. It was right above the knee, so I have no knees. So my right leg was it stayed where it's at. This one I had it mid shin, and I guess from me landing on top of the striker and from the explosion, I lost my spleen. So that's one thing they took out in Kandahar, I think, or Germany. So I lost my spleen, so I couldn't fight infections. I couldn't. Every time I got sick, so I guess I got from the dirt over there, from being in the dirt, and I don't know what it was. I got an infection that every time my leg would close, it would eat away at my skin, and then they kept trying to chop it up, trying to beat that infection. So they couldn't stop it, and every surgery, I would come out crazy. Like, and I don't remember, just stories from my parents, my wife now, she was there, my brother, and then they were just saying like, man, you were trying to, like he was saying, you were trying to get out of the bed, trying to go play basketball. But when I was conscious, when it was me, I couldn't move. I was here. They had a tube down my throat, and I couldn't eat. I couldn't do anything. So I was kind of like whispering, hey, I don't feel good. I need to get comfortable. But after every anesthesia, I was having dreams of like me playing basketball, me going to war, me doing whatever I had to do, being in Alaska. So I was always trying to jump out of bed after every surgery. So finally, my dad told the doctors like, hey, I don't know what it is, but after every surgery, he gets this way. So at that point, when my dad finally told them, I think I still had my knee. So they already had chopped off all this that I had no clue about. They would tell me, but because of anesthesia, I never knew I had lost my legs. Yeah. So finally, my dad tells them about the anesthesia. They finally gave me that anesthesia one surgery, which was, I still had the knee. And then they come back in. I start remembering things, and then I'm starting to feel conscious. I'm conscious in the moment. They come in, and they're like, hey, we couldn't stop the infection. And then, so they're telling my parents that, they're telling me this. And I'm just like, what are you guys talking about? Like, I was no clue. And they're like, we're going to have to chop off half your knee. I was like, what do you mean? I got my legs. They're like, what do you mean? And then, so I look under the sheets, no legs. Probably the toughest moment of my life. And I was like, what the hell when this happened? And then, sure enough, no legs. And I started yelling, told my wife, you can leave me. I'm not going to be the same person anymore. You know, stuff like that. All the bad stuff started coming in. But, you know, I think one thing that helped was my parents were there. My wife, I had my newborn baby. She was only 3 months in the hospital right there with me. And then, and my brother, my twin brother was in the Army at that time already too. He had joined a little bit after I had joined. And I didn't know he was getting ready to leave too until I got a basic training. He was like, oh, I'm going to join the Army. So he was stationed in Washington, Seattle, not Seattle, Washington. What's that base out there? He was somewhere in Washington.
The one on the island? The base on the...
No, he was close to Seattle, out there in Washington somewhere.
That's where Louis' son's at.
Okay, so he was in some base out there.
So did he had no idea?
So they called my parents about my first injury. They called him. He, you know, obviously started crying and went through his stuff. He was getting ready to deploy too, and he was going to be the interpreter or help interpret. He was going through classes to learn their language out there. So luckily, because of that school, he was in that school at that time. They gave him permission to go for a week to Washington D.C. with me, and he was able to be there. And so that the support of the family kind of kept me going, and you know, stay strong and stuff like that. And like, you know, he said, I grew up with that mentality too, of a strong mentality. Because one funny story is, right before we deployed, it was me and my Army buddies, and we started talking. You know, we started like, hey, if you were to get blown up, what would you rather lose? And stuff like that. Some people were saying, oh, I'll be fine with one arm or a leg. I told my buddies, I'm like, I'm fine losing both legs, but I had my baby at that time. I was like, I want to be able to hold her. So I'm like, I'm fine losing both legs. And I said that right before deploying to Afghanistan. And yeah, sure enough, this one, they ended up amputating it, and finally they were able to stop it. And this one so I got injured in June. So maybe in the beginning of July, a week into July, they finally were able to stop that infection, and it still didn't fully close. So finally, my parents were out of work for 2 months. My brother it was in the summer, but he was getting ready to go back to school. My wife had been out there in the hospital. My baby's been in the hospital for 2 months. So finally, they're like, you know what, we got to try to get you closer to California because, you know, we're out here. So we were going to try to go to, we're supposed to go to Texas from the beginning, but I got sick in the plane from Germany to Walter Reed, so that's where we stopped. So you know what, we got San Diego. We could go in Balboa, and I was out in Balboa, San Diego, doing all my recovery. I was like, well, yeah, it'll be closer for everybody. So yeah, they finally flew me out in mid-July. I think I got to Balboa, and pretty much from there was the recovery phase. The surgeries were done. This one, we're still waiting for it to close. It kind of looked like Venom's face. It was just like black, nasty. The scab had dried real bad, and it wouldn't heal, so they started peeling at the scab, and it finally closed up. After that, I got my started doing like physical therapy. They put me into these shorties. It's pretty much just my socket with the little metal pole with like little duck feet at the end. So that was pretty much my first prosthetics that I got. Started training, started walking, and then from there went into just longer, same style, but just longer.
So is it like working on balance? Is that what it is?
Yeah, working on balance, working on how to walk. But I mean, they paint you a pretty picture. They're like, oh yeah, we're gonna get you walking. You be able to play basketball. You be able to dance. And I'm like, what? I mean, all right. I mean, so in my head, I'm like, oh, okay, I could still do a lot. Yeah. But no, it's not that easy. It's an everyday battle. You know what I mean? Just putting them on in the mornings, it's like a battle. It's like a mental battle that I gotta go through. It's like I need to put them on so I could keep walking. So it was a mental battle from the beginning, just the recovery to dealing with my injuries, plus having my baby at the time. At that time, she was probably a couple months old.
Yeah.
You know, newlywed. So trying to be like, you know, you got to be a husband now. You got to be a father. And I'm still dealing with my own stuff, trying to just, you know, be myself again.
So you know how they say that there are stages when something dramatic happens, right?
Yeah.
And they'll say, okay, there's the anger phase, there's the
Y phase, maybe.
So what were the phases for you once you found out that this was your new reality?
I think in the beginning it was a Y phase, like why me? You know what I mean? It was kind of like I thought I was a good kid. You know what I mean? I thought I was a good soldier, and it was kind of like the why me, or what would have happened if maybe I did this that time, or
so different scenarios.
So different scenarios. What would have happened if I would have told my sergeant something and we waited a couple seconds? You know what I mean? Just little stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it was going through that why phase, and then it went through that. I think it was like a shock phase, like I don't believe it type of thing, and it was kind of like, and then I think I didn't really get into the anger phase because after that why phase, I kind of told myself, it was like I knew what I was going into, and I chose to join the Army. I chose to, you know, my choices in life was on me, so I didn't really get into that anger phase of like blaming other people or stuff like that, or blaming God or whatever it is.
That's a very mature approach.
Yeah,
such a tragic.
I just realized that it was my choice. You know, it was up to me. And
so I want to ask you about something because you mentioned that that was your first daughter at that time.
Yeah.
Okay, because I know when I saw my son when he was born, it changed me.
Oh yeah.
Do you feel like your daughter's birth played a role in your recovery?
Oh yeah. If it wasn't for my daughter, I wouldn't be alive.
What's her name?
So. Kaylee.
Kaylee.
She's special too.
Kaylee, you're gonna see this one day. And you're gonna know.
My life, man.
Yeah, she's a great kid.
Every time I was in that medical bed in pain.
Yeah.
As soon as she was in my arms, no pain. 5 seconds, pain free, just my baby.
How old is she now?
13. She's 13 now. Yep.
And so I have this tradition that I do, and this is probably the most emotional one I've ever done, is shout out to Kaylee. You're there for Daddy. You were there for Daddy when he needed you most.
Yep. Yeah.
So she got you through that, and then
yeah. So after that, you know, it was that father role that, you know, I gotta toughen up. I gotta quit feeling sorry for myself. I started changing my mentality of like, I gotta be able to be active for my daughter. At that time, with just my daughter, I was like, I gotta be able to, you know, take her to the zoo, take her to the park, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And It started slowly. It started
That was
with
the motivation, right?
Yeah,
Just-
my daughter was my motivation, and being able to
Oh,
be that
man.
dad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
I'm
luckily,
sure your wife played a role in all
Oh
this
yeah,
as
she
well.
had a big role. She helped me in everything, and, and she
was she like
there.
the rock?
Yeah, she was. She was in the beginning. I mean,
What's her name?
Daisy.
Daisy.
Yeah,
Daisy.
She was.
Solid as a rock.
She had to move to San Diego, driving in that traffic.
man.
Never. She was pretty much a new. We were 19, 20. She was a
And
new
she's
driver.
got a new baby.
And we had a new baby where she's
No
taking me to the
sleep.
hospital appointments. She's taking me to everything I had to do in San Diego.
Yeah.
And so yeah, pretty much the mentality came from my parents. You know, raising me strong. Even though I was a twin,
Yeah.
they still raised me like the older brother because I'm 2 minutes older than my brother.
Oh, okay.
So for some reason, I
Those
was
2
still
minutes.
kind of like, I was still kind of that older brother. So they kind of raised me to be on that, you know, I
Yeah.
just felt like I was that tougher side, trying to be stronger. And, you know, me and my brother always competitive to begin with, but I
Yeah.
always try to be stronger, be better. And
was
then,
any of your journey, was there any faith involved? Was there any prayer or?
I mean, I've always, thanks to my dad, we grew up in church. We grew up, you know, I've always believed in God. Obviously, I wasn't, you know, you go as a teenager, I wasn't
Yeah.
that type where like, oh, God, this. But I've always prayed. Every
Yeah.
night I prayed. I remember being in Afghanistan praying to come home. I was like, I want to go home. God is like, I went because I had my baby. I was like, I want to, because as soon as this is crazy. So I got to California for training before leaving to Afghanistan, right? This was in May. In May, we came out here to what's in California, that training base out here in going towards going towards Nevada. That base out there we train. You go towards Nevada, you see it on the way out there. I forgot the name of it. We were out there training.
Yeah.
We're out there training, getting ready to deploy because it's getting ready for that hot weather. So we're out here kind of like in the desert.
By Vacaville?
Yeah, we're getting ready for training in the desert and stuff. So I was out here already, and normally after that training, we go back to Alaska, and then before we're getting ready to deploy, we get about 2 weeks to come home, kind of spend time with the family, and then we go back and we get ready to deploy. So I was already here in California, luckily, and my daughter was about to be born, and she was going to be induced, and the appointment was.
Oh, you got to be there?
So we're in California. I started talking to my
man.
sergeant. Hey, sergeant, my baby's gonna be born. She's gonna be born. I was still here in California. Like I think it was the induced date was in March 2nd, and I was like, she's gonna be born. Like I think it was gonna be like 2 days from us going back to Alaska or something like that.
Yeah.
We were done with training. We were done with everything. I'm like, can I just? My parents could pick me up, and I'm like, so I talked to them. They're like, you know what? Yeah, you got no clothes, you got nothing. I was like, I don't care. I'm fine. So I got to make it back in time. I think I went in all sunburned from training, all nasty, and so I was there all day. But then they told us that it was gonna take a little bit longer. It was her first
Yeah.
baby, so it was taking longer. So I got time to go shower, and then it went back, and then so my baby was born March 3rd at midnight, like 12:30 in the morning or something like that. And then so I was there.
Is that
so
here in Hanford?
that was in Selma.
Oh, Selma.
Well, she was born in Selma, which sucked because then I was able to be with her for 2 weeks, and it's like, all right, you got to deploy. Oh man, another hard decision. I mean, the hard part was like leaving her behind. It was like,
Yeah.
man, I gotta go freaking Afghanistan. So the whole time in Afghanistan, I was just praying like, please help me get back to my daughter. Please help me get back to my daughter. So I've always had faith in God, and I've always prayed. But I think recently, after my injuries, it kind of like going through those, like you were saying, those phases of
Anger and
like why.
yeah.
It's kind of like I started accepting my life, and one thing I had to learn was that old me did die. I wasn't the same Fidel. That same Fidel that was that badass 240 machine gunner that could run and march and climb mountains and whatever, shoot perfect. It was like that dude did die. That dude died that day, and I had to become a different version of
yourself.
myself. It was like, so instead of like, you know, we're talking, it was like, instead of just sitting on the couch doing nothing, you know, what can I do now? Like, what can I still do? Like,
Yeah.
you know, I left.
Be flexible, right?
I left Balboa without really even knowing how to walk. I wanted to get out. I wanted to be home. I wanted to be with my baby. I want them to be relaxed. So I was like, I wasn't even done recovering. I was like, what's as soon as I could get out of the Army and go back home? They're like, in a couple months, and so we started doing the paperwork. So I came back I was staying on the Moor for from 2013 to 2015. So I got out of the Army in 2012, December 25th of 2012. So 2013, I started just really, it was my decline phase. It was because I didn't know how to walk yet. It was kind of, I could stand up and I could do stuff, certain things, but, and then I was just in the wheelchair all the time. And I was still in that, I couldn't go out. I couldn't be in front of people. I didn't feel myself yet. So it took me probably a whole year from 2013 to 2014 to like really
adjust to a new reality.
Adjust to my new reality. My mom, I started gaining a lot of weight, and it wasn't because I was depressed and overeating. It was because I was eating, but I couldn't do the same stuff that I did back then, which I was active, playing basketball. You know, in the Army, we had to do PT, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I was still eating normal, but I didn't realize that I couldn't do the same activities. I was in a wheelchair all day. So little by little, I started gaining weight, which kind of started affecting my mentality. And then, so then we were finally, and my wife had gotten married through court, but we were going to finally do a big wedding. And I was like, all right, I got to start getting in shape. So my mom introduced me to CrossFit. There was a guy where she works at.
I see. Lemoore CrossFit.
Yeah. Lemoore CrossFit.
It's amazing everything he does.
And so she worked in Leprino's in Lemoore in that cheese factory. And there was a guy that helped coach CrossFit there. And they kind of started talking. And, well, my son wants, so she introduced me to CrossFit through them. And they started out of the garage. So I just showed up and, man, the first day they made me do like 100 push-ups. And like, I was dead. I couldn't move the next day for like 2 weeks. I couldn't move. So I was like, man, forget that. I'm not going back. But no, luckily I was able to keep going and little by little started. I went, that CrossFit made me want to get back into like walking again. Like, all right, I gotta get back to trying again. So then I started doing physical therapy again in VA, went to Lemoore Naval Base, started doing physical therapy there. And it was just, that was like the beginning of my real recovery. That was like, I started seeing what I could still be a badass, even if I wasn't that same guy that was, carrying that 240 machine gun and stuff like that. So I started finding out different organizations, like we said, past vets kind of set up a pathway through the organizations that he was talking about. I got introduced into different organizations that were helping veterans, especially combat injured veterans. It kind of opened a whole different pathways for those specific veterans. And so I reached out to, or somebody reached out to me about this organization called Homes for Our Troops.
Yeah.
And so I applied. I didn't want to. I had that pride of a man. I could buy a house myself and I'll go to work. But it wasn't that. Like I said, it wasn't that simple. It was a battle just putting on my legs, and it was a battle just to go to be able to push myself to walk or even wash dishes, standing up, stuff like that.
Yeah. So
I finally found the Homes for Our Troops, and within I think I applied like beginning of 2014. By the end of 2014, they already had found a lot for my new house that they're gonna build mortgage free, and by April of 2015, that's when he was out there, or a little bit after. But in April of 2015, 2 days after my birthday, they gave me the key to the new house in Hanford right there, and mortgage free. It's on 2 acres.
It's right down the street from Hanford Christian where we practice.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
wow.
West side of the road, about a couple houses.
Honestly, it's just the I mean, to me, God put the right people around me. You know what I mean? Just putting him in front of me is like another push forward, like where he's introducing me to more things that I could still do and hang out and this and that.
Well, I'm going to tell you a conversation we had. Jim, do you remember this? I told you, hey, I'm all excited because I just talked to Scott. He's going to bring his friend. And he lost his legs in Afghanistan. And so Jim's logistics, everything in lighting. And he's like, well, how are we going to get him up here? Yeah. So I think I talked to Scott. And I was like, hey, Scott.
This dude's a troop.
And Scott was like, dude, he'll walk up there. And I said, what?
You know what?
Yeah.
Sure enough,
most impressive human being I think I've ever met. And I've known a lot. I'm 52, fellas. I've known a lot. He's impressed me from, and I knew, like I said, I knew him back when in 15. I knew him, but I didn't know him. Like until I picked him up as an assistant coach, and we really co-coached together, and then we kind of got to know each other. That's when I said, wow.
I said, wow, walking in.
He plays wheelchair basketball. He's the best shooter on the team. In Fresno, they go to Sacramento.
We got to go check out the game.
That's what I'm saying. If you and Maddie want to go with me and Naomi when they play in Fresno,
Yeah.
We tend to host tournaments in January, sometime in January. We're recently becoming a Divisional 3 team, so it's gonna be actually like trying to win championships and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's gonna change things up a little bit, but yeah, like I
his
said, I
dream of
can
playing
still
basketball is not over.
yeah, I can still play basketball.
That's my boy.
Awesome.
I
You got the
started
got the J's on
Yeah.
his feet.
That's my boy.
Nice.
I started signing up for you know, I mean, like I said, I have a 4-year-old, and he kind of like
Oh,
put my life on pause a little bit, but you know,
his
he's
kids are athletes too.
yeah. My
Yeah.
goal is to like just help them out or whatever they want to be.
Yeah,
and-
I'm sure you're an inspiration.
Well, I felt bad because when Robert was telling me, I was thinking a lot of times you don't see people wearing prosthetics. You know,
Yeah,
they
no.
kind of
No,
hide
yeah,
it or
yeah.
whatever. I'm like, well, you know, dude, I got stairs and I got a
Yeah.
forklift. You know, I'm like, hey, I can.
Yeah,
put
he
them up
had all
there.
these options.
Oh, yeah.
And when I walk up here and I don't see you guys, you're
Yeah.
standing over at the game playing Blitz NFL next to Scott.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, this is the dude they're talking about right here.
Yeah.
This
No,
is
and,
the
and
deal.
honestly, that's all because of CrossFit. It was eventually I had a physical therapy wasn't doing anything for me. And I was like,
And that's the Lemoore.
and yeah, that's some more. I started.
Shout out to Lemoore CrossFit, Ryan
Rocha.
Rocha, and
Yep.
Callie Rocha.
Yep.
I work with Callie
Okay,
at
yeah, yeah.
Sierra Pacific.
So
Be
um,
like their spokesperson over there
Yeah.
or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
no, so I'm my goal is to help Ryan coach. I'm lagging. He's been asking me, but I'm just
No,
right now
you
with the
need to
kids
coach.
at home. I'm babysitting all the time, and
He's
my goal
coming,
is to
Ryan.
help coach. But I'll be there, Ryan. But yeah, thanks to CrossFit, it kind of pushed me into it's kind of like eventually like you gotta just run and walking becomes easy. So that's what we did. I got running blades and I started running. Ryan started helping me. We started doing physical therapy. So, and just this morning, my 4-year-old is getting to that stage. He'll be 5 in November. He's getting to that stage where he's asking questions and he sees my these prosthetics on the floor in the garage and he goes, "Daddy, what are these for?" I'm like, "Those are my running legs." He goes, "You run?" I was like, "Yeah." And this was maybe like 2 days ago. I'm like, next time I'll show you that when I run. And then he goes, "Okay." So then today I was in the garage working out. My son, my oldest, went out there, and my 2 little ones followed. While my little one then were babysitting another 3-year-old. And then so they start working out with me, and I start telling them what to do squats and stuff like that. And I see the running legs, and he kind of, you know, like, "You're gonna run?" And I was like, "Okay, I'll go put them on right now." So I just put them on earlier today and went running around in the front yard and showed them. They're running behind me like, "Dad, you're going too fast." And I'm just running.
God.
So, you know what I mean? Like you said, I'm just trying to be that inspiration to my kids. And my 4-year-old is picking up on my older kids doing sports. So he's getting really into sports and just little by little, you know, just creating
Yeah.
that pattern. And it's funny because I started doing CrossFit and my mom joined. For a while, my twin brother was after he got out of service, he was going, and his wife and my wife and my aunt,
I'm thinking about
my
getting back
cousin.
into it.
So eventually, it just kind of started this chain of like, now my pretty much my whole family wants to work out. It's like cousins and uncles, and they're hitting the gym now and asking me for
You get
advice.
people
And I'm
back
like,
in the gym.
yeah.
Rob, you asked for inspiration. I
Yeah.
gave it to you.
Yeah, you sure did.
Okay, brother.
This is
You owe me.
yeah, no,
No,
big time.
And
big time,
honestly, like
Scott.
you say, we joined the service not expecting anything. I
Yeah.
remember the day they gave me the key to my house. I was like, man, I would have been happy with a basket of muffins. Like, you guys give me
Yeah.
a freaking house. Like, it's crazy. But all these organizations, you know, that support for veterans is out there, and we just got to accept it. You know, we got to want
Yeah.
it and ask for it, be grateful for
Veterans organizations that are full of veterans that didn't lose legs or lose their lives, we
They're the
all
ones giving
we
back.
all feel like as easy that could be me, like
Yeah.
100%. So
Yeah.
you get in a house, I feel like that's not enough. I you know, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
No.
yeah, you know,
So
and plus it just.
yeah.
You know, when I took him on, asked him to be coach, it was like humbling. Like I was like, and I was thinking he's a vet like me, and you know we're gonna bond. But I really didn't know that he really has a great knowledge of basketball. Like he put the girls through all kinds of. He's the one that pretty much led the practices from what I started seeing. Like he had all these drills already. Like he was meant to be a coach, and he wasn't
Yeah.
coaching, but he really made my life so easy because I was kind of out of the practice of coaching, I guess. And,
Yeah.
and it's like, you know, I have him run, have him do basic drills. But he came up with so many great drills during practice. And he'd say, let's have him do this today. And I'd always confer with him before practice. and it would always end up being. And I was like, man, he's really got a mind for basketball, and now he's getting into the football with Jason, and like so.
Now into working out, I'm
out.
You know, my mom calls me like, I can't get the squat down. And I'm like, all right, come over, and then. All right, you gotta keep your weight on your heels and little stuff like. And I can't even show them physically. Like my kids, I can't. Hey, this is how you do a layup. I was like, it's all through words, and so I gotta be patient too. It's like, so it's a learning process for me too. You know, learning how to
verbalize that.
You know what I mean? Like in the military, we learn to get each other's attention through yelling, through cussing.
Yeah.
And especially like if they put you into that,
Sergeant Scott, man.
leader position. That leader position, you have to yell, and especially in the military, you just. And I grew up not really being a big cussing guy during my teenage years, but getting into that military, you just have to, because then some of these guys.
We were altar boys. I didn't cuss as a teenager.
Yeah, wow. But you just can't get people's attention. And then they made me a team leader as a 240 machine gunner, and I was being a leader. I was a 20-year-old leading a freaking 32-year-old, and that guy didn't want to listen to me until we went into that training. And he kind of like sucked bad. And I'm like, look, that's why you got to listen to me.
Yeah.
And then so those little things so I'm learning, you know, just through coaching and with my kids and getting them to understand. And to anybody out there, it's like, you know, these kids that you guys are teaching. And at the end of the day, it's a mental battle. Once you could figure out that you're in charge of your brain, we're all going to have those bad thoughts. We're all going to have those lazy thoughts. We're all going to have those giving up thoughts. These kids think that it's only them, you know. It leads into that depression. It leads, like, for example, one thing that helped me get through my stuff was when I got to San Diego, there was people worse off than me. There was somebody pushing in a wheelchair with just one arm, missing a limb, his arm missing his legs. He was never gonna. There was another guy missing all 4 limbs. So you know what I mean, just like how he sees me and it makes him want to do better. Same thing, I saw him and I was like, man, this guy's out here doing physical therapy and wanting to walk or wanting to. Everybody's telling him, the guy with one arm, I want you to get electric chair, bro. And he's like, nah, because I'm going to get lazy. And he would rather just push a manual chair with one hand and missing all 3 limbs. And so those little things where everybody could see just in life, like, you know, learn from other people or see someone worse off than you. And it's like kind of push your life into perspective where, like, maybe I don't have it that bad. You know, and then at the same time, there's those people that want to get stuck and maybe they need that person to push them, maybe a teacher, maybe. So, I mean, when I go to CrossFit, everybody comes up. I'm just there doing my workout. But everybody comes up to me and is like, man, I was going to give up halfway through the workout, but I saw you still going, so I had to keep going. And, I mean, those little things where I'm there almost every day or whenever it is, and they're just like, man, well, I got to keep going too. And so recently me and Ryan went into this, he helped me get into this competition called Wheel One. And we went out, we went through stages, working out stages, stage 1, and we had placed a certain rank to make it to round 2. And then I made it to the finals, and it was without me wanting to. It was kind of, I'll just try it. So we went out to North Carolina and Raleigh, and I got 3rd place, and we were out there working out, and a fun little thing, but it kind of got other people into like pushing themselves. Yeah. You know, and it's the same thing with my basketball team. I show up and I give it 110%. So it's making them want to go 110%. I show up to just last year I signed up for the National Veterans Wheelchair Games. And it's only vets, and you got to be injured in a certain way to go. And I get there, and a lot of it was me and another buddy from Lemoore. His name's Anthony and Martinez. He's a vet too, but he got injured out. He was in the combat, but he's missing a limb too. So we go together out there, and we're these 2 beef up guys, and he's bigger than me. But everybody's just like, it kind of made them like, next year I'm gonna be stronger. I'm gonna be just like you guys. So I'm just trying to in one way I do want to better myself, but at the same time it's bettering others without me realizing it. You know, I'm just trying to. Yeah. I wake up wanting to be better,
Big time.
And it's like making other people around me better. And I'm just like, hey man, I'm happy for you
I've been
guys.
around you like an hour now, and I don't know about you, Jim, but I'm ready to like, hey, I need to get off my butt again. do some stuff.
No,
I feel bad about the chips I just ate this morning.
know.
Eating potato chips.
no, you're good.
No excuses.
No, but I mean,
Wow.
it's a mental battle. Like I said, it's a mental
all
battle. It's
mental.
hard for me. It's hard for
Yeah.
you know. I mean, I push my kids through certain things, and they're kind of like complaining about it, but after they feel good, and it's just little learning lessons that
I give you
learning.
props, man, because it's like you said about Sergeant Daniels. It's like you could just lose the will to do anything, let alone live.
Oh, Lieutenant
Get
Dan.
up. Lieutenant
Yeah,
Dan. There you go.
Lieutenant.
Yeah, you just and knowing that your daughter and everyone else kind of has that motivation. You always see those movies where they look at their daughter or their family right
Yeah.
before something drastic is going to happen, to know that there's they want to push themselves. But I got to give you a round of applause, man, because
Appreciate
that's
Yeah.
so sweet, man. I envy
Appreciate
you.
it. Thank you. Appreciate it. No.
So wow. Okay. Well, you said you were bringing the goods, and
I came through now.
so man,
No,
thank
it's
you
good.
guys.
No, thank you
Thank
guys
you
for
so
having
much,
us. Thank you for everything.
Scott,
It's cool.
Fidel.
Cool little setup.
Appreciate it. And hey, you guys out there, if you were moved by today's episode, which I can't see how you wouldn't be, make sure to like and subscribe and get the word out, because the word of inspiration that was shared today by Scott and Fidel, there was a lot of sacrifice behind that, a lot of love, tears, emotion. And I don't think I've ever been so emotional on camera as today. So thank you guys for letting us be a part of your journey.
Appreciate it.
And
You guys.
Jim, of course, man, love you. Glad you're here. As always, guys, we're going to end today's episode, as we always do, with love, peace, and chicken grease. RobLive, we out.